For a long time, we've been modifying plants. We have the wheat variety Scepter, which can grow in very low rainfall areas. At 4 or 5 inches of rainfall can produce a good wheat crop of Scepter. So we are growing drought tolerance within our seed bank.
Oh, it's really important. And for instance, the cotton debate that we continually have in the Murray-Darling Basin, if we can develop cotton through genetic modification so it can actually be more efficient with the water that's applied to it, maybe it can be something that can be grown in the Murray-Darling Basin.
On the Flow Morning Show, we turn our attention to agriculture and the topic where New South Wales has moved to where South Australia has moved on genetically modified crops. They have removed their moratorium. Rikki Lambert joins me to discuss this and the implications for agriculture. How are you, Rikki?
Great, thanks.
Well, this is interesting because Queensland were already in that place, Victoria and Western Australia. South Australia have now removed their moratorium, and it means that New South Wales really were kind of locked in and had to do the same. But they're seeing it from a positive, saying that it'll enable their farmers to be competitive.
Well, or you could say catch up to the other states, really, in terms of the productivity gains and the reduction in their costs of when it comes to pesticides, for instance, because the other farmers have already got that advantage.
Okay, so the places where if you were to get canola and you were looking to have it without genetically modification or genetically modified, that would be in Tasmania and Kangaroo Island. So we've now sort of said that the little islands or the smaller islands of Australia are the places for the canola plant that is not genetically modified.
Well, and when you look in politics, and I worked in state and federal politics for quite some time, usually those are the left-leaning states or jurisdictions where they keep these sorts of bans in place. Tasmania extended their ban in 2019 for another 10 years. But in Tasmania, the politics, because of the strong presence of the Greens, leans a long way to the left. I'm not saying Kangaroo Island is left-leaning, but I think the Kangaroo Island's been used as a way to placate the more left-leaning voter to say, well, okay, we've kept Kangaroo Island, but the rest of the state is now GM cleared.
All right, so the Barossa Valley did try to have the moratorium extended for its region. It was unsuccessful. But looking at this in the light of moving and progress, say, towards this $100 billion of agriculture, and we see that where states like South Australia made that decision, but for a long time we've been modifying plants. We have the wheat variety Scepter, which can grow in very low rainfall areas. At 4 or 5 inches of rainfall can produce a good wheat crop of Scepter. So we are growing drought tolerance within our seed bank.
Oh, it's really important. And for instance, the cotton debate that we continually have in the Murray-Darling Basin, if we can develop cotton through genetic modification so it can actually be more efficient with the water that's applied to it, maybe it can be something that can be grown in the Murray-Darling Basin. So you had the Greens very violently opposed to the idea of GM, and yet it could be a way of saving water.
Okay, there's another angle though. Are we interfering with the gene pool? And from the Greens' perspective, could we be interfering where we say modify so that insects that don't particularly like it, could we end up seeing a situation where our bees don't pollinate plants because of the genetically modified components?
Oh, that's a really serious question, Wayne, and I think it does need to be thoroughly examined. Often you see with the scientists there's trade-offs. They accept that there are trade-offs, but when you look at livestock, for instance, and the breeding that has happened there, no one seems to have been too concerned about the things we've bred out of the animals that we eat in terms of what that knocks on in the food chain.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Do we trust the science completely? And we see this in terms of the situation with, say, the COVID-19 situation right now. But then there are others that say, well, we have to trust the science if we want to move forward. We want to grow certain food types for the world to be fed, then we need to move towards genetically modified foods.
Well, I think that farmers, or some of them, have told me over the years, well, we've been modifying all the way through with farming and eliminating the things that don't work as well as what we could do if we modify the genetics of a crop or an animal. So to a degree, we've been moving in this direction for a very long time.
All right, it's an interesting discussion. It's one that we'll continue to watch here on the Flow News 24 desk. Thanks, Rikki, for joining us.